Mongols,
Khans,
assassins,
lend us your arrows. And a huge thank you to all of our Patreons.
Thank you to the Pit Fighters, the First Swords, and all of the Bright Stars, Truth and Courage.
Hello and welcome back for the very first time to the channel. We are the Brothers Gwynne, and today we are very, very, very excited to be talking about the Judas Blossom. And no, I did not damage the book. It hit my leg quite hard.
Just damage your knee?
Yeah, just my leg. I won't be walking after. But this is an early art copy that we received. We're very lucky to read this early. And then this is the proper, gorgeous, lovely, beautiful copy, which is amazing
more
art
beautiful
on the front.
because it has the Brothers Gwynne quote inside it. Yeah,
slightly narcissistic. It sounded like, but yeah, we're very honoured to be in the front cover. Well, because we've never been in the front cover of a book before, and then this and The Way Over Dan within a few months of each other, which yeah, it's amazing because we just love talking about books, and then to see our name,
we're taking over.
Ed's got a very different reception to it. Ed sees it, you're like Saruman. You're just seeing this as like the beginning, the age of.
No, I don't serve.
The age of man.
Whom do you serve?
Saruman. Anyway, after that quote, so today we're going to be talking about the Judas Blossom, historical fantasy at its finest. So in case you didn't know, we really enjoyed this. 5 stars for me. What was it from you, Ed?
5 stars for me.
And so this is the beginning of a new series by Stephen Orion, historical fantasy, and The Falcon and the Nightingale is the name.
Yes, it is.
Sorry, The Nightingale and the Falcon.
The Nightingale and the Falcon. So I will quickly read our quote, just to give what to expect in this review. Yeah?
Yeah.
There you go.
Good.
This is why we read a historical fantasy at the very top of its game, and it should be on top of everyone's reading pile. Characters that feel fresh and authentic, a plot that explores the fate of the Mongol Empire with all of the breathtaking action and twists that you love to see in modern fantasy. An early contender for Book of the Year.
And that has certainly held up.
That still stands to this day.
Let's not go too far beating books.
Sorry, yeah.
But yeah, we there's a little moments of passion are allowed to show, but
okay.
Never too much beating books.
Anyway, let's get into it. So this book is a historical fantasy set in the 13th century, focusing on the Mongol Empire, the Golden Horde, and all of the different parts of that empire left by Genghis Khan. So it's a great historical fiction meets fantasy read. It is very much historical fiction. It reads like a historical fiction. It reads like a Con Iggulden book, if I am being honest with you guys. But there is these little sparks, we'll say, of magic within there, little aspects of fantasy that seep its way into this fiction.
It is pretty minimal, and kind of under the surface kind of magic in this first book. But I have a
bit
feeling
like Children of Gods and Fighting Men.
Exactly, but as Library of Alexandria said in his review, where he raved about the Judas Blossom, I agree, as I feel that the magic is going to play a far bigger role in book 2. So if you want more magic, definitely stick with it and still pick this up, because the elements that there are, it's a lot about learning about the system, isn't it? And that is really, really interesting. The mysteries that are put on show and the answers that we get to them, and many that are left unanswered, is really interesting. Another aspect to this book that I've really, really enjoyed. But before we get into all of that, I think we always say we're character-driven readers, aren't we? So why don't we begin with talking about the characters?
So it is multi-POV, and you have a broad range of characters, really, which almost reminded me of We Are the Dead, that you have these characters from all different castes, really. So you have someone who is a Khan, who is a direct descendant of Genghis Khan. We also have his son, his youngest son, who is trying to appease to his father, trying to make a name for himself, really, but he's not cut out for it. We also have the last remnant of a Mongol tribe that the Khan, Halugu, has destroyed, and she then becomes his wife, so she is the last kind of remnant of her tribe. And then we also have Kaivon, who is a Persian general. The Persians were fighting against the Mongols, and the Mongols were taking over this broad landscape of Asia and the Middle East as well.
Expanding.
Even seeped into Europe at some point as well. But yeah, so since the death of Genghis Khan, the empire has kind of been divvied up between different factions, his different grandsons, and they are all vying for control now. So it's a very turbulent time in the Mongol Empire, and I love the way that Stephen Orion puts all these weaves together, and you really see, just in a few chapters, the breadth of the Mongol Empire, of essentially what has happened since Genghis Khan has died, and you can see how life is very, very different. It's very, very unique here, and the immersion was like top notch straight away.
Yeah. So there are the 4 Khanates, which there's the Mongol Empire. Within it are 4 different factions, and each one is ruled by one of the descendants of Genghis Khan. And so you've got the 4 Khanates, and then they are sometimes not vying for power. Some are trying to kind of just uphold the values that they've been raised on, which is basically expand the borders, make sure to incorporate more and more into the Mongol Empire. But others are vying for power, and there's conflict with there. I really like the kind of the family politics that come into play, because throughout the book, it's definitely not info dumpy. Throughout the book, it's a slow trickle of learning about kind of the context, the relationships that these characters have with each other. And I really, really enjoyed not having all those answers straight away, because there'd be little mentions of dialogue. It felt very realistic in how if we met family, we would mention something that happened quite a while ago. And so it really shows that there is a complex relationship there where they've experienced a lot together, and it raised a lot of questions as well, because they would reference things that they wouldn't fully go into, and it just it piqued my interest. And so it really had me at that. And the characters overall, I love how we see characters from a wide variety of backgrounds. There's like series that I absolutely adore, A Song of Ice and Fire, but other than Sir Davos, all the characters are basically from noble lineage, aren't they? Where I wish there was a bit more variety in the backgrounds of characters. You definitely have this here. You have characters who are at the top. Hulagu, who is one of the Khans in charge of one of the Khanates, and then you have Kokotchin, who is made to be his wife, has no say in the matter. And I've really enjoyed her journey. I love how a lot of it is about the individual motivations and objectives of the characters, but how they link to the main plot, but indirectly it feels very realistic in that sense as well. It's not streamlined that everyone has this main quest that they're trying to get to. It doesn't feel like that, like a lot of fantasy books do, and they still can be great, but it often feels like they're all just going for the same thing. All these characters, they are dragged often unwillingly into the main story, and so it's kind of brought to their attention without them wanting to be a part of it. And so I really enjoyed that aspect as well. It had that authentic feel to the story, and that really made the characters relatable, because they have their own passions and endeavours and motivations, and it really helped me kind of engage with the characters. A lot of them do questionable things, but you're still really enjoying following them. That is something that also struck me, that this is a book where there is no weak POV, where often when you're reading a multi-POV book, there'll be something like, oh, do I have to be with this character? I love this other one, I want to be with them. There's probably 1 or 2 that I loved, absolutely adored, and there's a few others that I still really, really enjoyed. It's just a really consistent high level of characterization.
I really like all the characters' arcs. They tell their own stories. There is development. That no one feels shallow or one-dimensional really, or two-dimensional even. They feel like fully realised characters in their own worlds, and I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. And I think the reason why I thought it felt like We Are the Dead, Mike Shackle's The Long War, it's called The Long War?
Lost War.
The Lost War, sorry. The Last War.
Last War. We're both wrong.
The Last War series.
See, teamwork,
which is awesome. By the way, that fantasy is grimdark at its finest. But the reason it reminded me of that was because of you've got characters from all different backgrounds and different places really in their lives, as well as in the empire. And you have people trying to bring this empire down. Essentially, the plot is you have some characters, some POVs trying to cling on to this sense of empire and this sense of magnitude that Genghis Khan has built up, their grandfather has built up. And then you also have these other POVs who are trying to bring down this empire on their own, really, or with different groups. You see there is a group of assassins, really, which is fantastic. And that is, I believe, historically true. I remember reading something along the lines of that, there was this assassin group really that were hunting Genghis Khan for pretty much most of his life, weren't they? So that was really, really cool. And then you also have, obviously, they are attacking the Persians and the Mamluks as well. So lots and lots going on here, and the plot is awesome. It's it really does sweep you off your feet. It's very, very fast paced. The prose really lends itself to that. There is no kind of hanging around with Stephen Orion. He gets to the chase. Yeah. He's very, very direct with the vocabulary that he uses. And
quite David Gemmell-esque.
Definitely get David Gemmell-esque, yes, definitely. And I think far more so, more Con Ilgudun, really, for me. I know Con Ilgudun's written his own Genghis Khan series, but just the way the prose felt, it felt very much like something that he could have written, which is definitely a compliment of the highest degree. So I absolutely loved this. I thought the action was used brilliantly as well. It is a historical fiction meets fantasy, so you do have these sweeping battles. You have the Mongols, which were very much dominant in terms of siege warfare as well as pitched battles as well. And you have different factions taking place. If you're a fan of Total War, you'll definitely enjoy this book because there are lots of different types of fights going on here. You've got kind of close quarters, in the city fights with rebellions happening, as well as you have huge battles and sieges, and then you have the magic come into play, which is awesome.
And when it does, it is shocking.
Yeah,
and I also really enjoyed that. It strikes a great balance of you have these conflicts and you see the brutality, but it's not over the top.
No,
it is the amount
not.
that it is shocking, and it does it in quite a way that is kind of understated, so that it really does impact.
There's a great balance in the Judas Blossom, and everything is balanced perfectly, just like Thanos' knife. Like the action is never too full blown or gory or too detailed, but it is never shallow, and you can always see it in your mind. It's very cinematic, and I really, really like that about this.
Yeah, I thought the Judas Blossom overall was really, really great, and I also really enjoyed the world building, kind of this immersion into Persian and Mongol culture, which is something that I've not read much of before. Yeah, I have read Con Ilgudun's Genghis Khan series, but fantasy-wise, you don't really see that side.
No, it's great to read something set in our world, but set in a different place to what we're used to reading.
Yes.
Historical fiction, usually you'll read about time periods and characters that you don't know too much about, and the one thing that a historical fiction book makes you want to do, a good historical fiction book makes you want to do anyway, is go and find out more about that time period and about those characters. And this book 100% succeeds in that, I think, because it made me want to just go and learn more and go and read more, watch videos on YouTube and try and experience the cultures that are written about here, because it was fascinating to see the different mindsets. And I think historical fiction, again, is always about immersion, as well as these almost alien mindsets to what we have today in the 21st century. Yeah. Because it is a different time, it's a different place, it's a different world, really. And I think Stephen Orion captures that perfectly.
Very nice. And I also, if you're very interested in getting a copy, I believe there are still remaining special editions
by
the Broken Binding.
They do look nice.
So the lettered editions are gone. They were beautiful slipcase editions, but the numbered editions limited to, I believe, 500. A few remain, but I wouldn't bide your time because they're going pretty rapidly. Yeah. And so that is, I think, is that our entire review, Ed?
To wrap it up, it's a 5-star read. It is, it's definitely a candidate for Book of the Year so far. It's historical fiction meets fantasy at its finest.
It really is, and I was so glad that it did live up to my expectations. When I heard the premise, and it's written by Stephen Orion, and the inspirations as well, we were hooked, and that means that we have high hopes, but often that's a dangerous thing, because a book could still be good, but it feels disappointing because it doesn't quite reach those lofty heights. Yeah. But this did. It was absolutely fantastic, and it's immediately gone down as one of my favourite reads and one of the favourites of the year as well. And book 2 will definitely be one of the most anticipated reads for next year. Fingers crossed we have it then. And really looking forward to reading this again as well.
Truth and Courage. Let us know if you are going to be reading this or if you have read it already. And please wish Stephen Orion a happy release day over on Twitter. But anyway, Truth and Courage. Stay safe from the Brothers Gwynne.
The Brothers Gwynne.